You know, when you were being inducted in Atlanta, one of the things that really warmed our hearts at the museum was to see a lot of your old friends from the neighborhood.
Yes.
10456.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what the Bronx means to your music. How, like, can we hear the Bronx and your coming up in your music?
I mean, the Bronx shaped me. You know, I was a little kid, first grade, second grade, third grade, going to these park jams. And I didn't have to go far because they were right at my projects. So the proximity was just so close. We were just close to it. You know, even my brother right here, you can't see him, but you know, he's from my neighborhood, 10456. And basically, Jeremy, it's just a matter of walking out your door and seeing hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, I was able to see people like Grandmaster Flash, Charlie Chase, Burgers, and Theodore, who were like right in the park in my projects.
Right.
I mean, I didn't even have to cross the street.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So of course, you know, you're a child. You don't think that this shit would turn into $1 billion industry, but the proximity was just so close. And what drew me into hip hop were the break beats. Even as a kid, I was infatuated with how these guys would find these obscure records with these little drum parts on them. You know, and I can honestly say that shit consumed me from a child. Even now, it consumed me.
Where did you get your first sampling machine from, or who did you get your first sampling drum machine from?
My first machine, I think, I'm not sure. I think 45 King gave me a 950.
Really?
Or no, maybe a 900, because the 900s came out first. So I had that. It wasn't a sequence, it was just a sampler. You know,
but what were you
shape.
doing with your life that someone like 45 King would look at a young cat and go, here's my old
because you know,
joint.
Mark was my mentor. You know, as long with Jazzy J. Jazzy J taught me the fundamentals of production. And then when I got around 45 King, I already had a single out with the Ultimate Force. And he was a fan of that. So when we met, we just clicked up. And he took a liking to me and put me under his wing, so to say. And actually, he's the one that plugged me up with, back in the day, in the early 90s, Russell Simmons had a management company for producers. It was called RPM, Rush Producers Management. And Mark was over there, 45 King, eventually Easy Mo B. I think Large Pro might have been over there, I'm not sure. Domingo was over there. And 45 King, he made one phone call and got me a sit down with the people who were running it. Rest in peace, Francesco Spiro. She was the main point person, along with another young lady named Linda. I forgot Linda's last name, but just based on the phone call, he was able to get me a meeting, and they signed me on the strength of 45 King, because, you know, he was red hot, you know, back then in the early 90s.
And this is with only having one
Flavor Unit, he started Latifah.
Right.
And everybody from Latifah to Madonna, 45 King worked with. So shouts out to 45 King, I'll never forget that.
But when RPM signed you, you had only just had the one single out at that time?
I had the one single out, and I had produced half of Lord Finesse' first album with DJ Premier.
Okay.
And Showbiz.
So that was more than enough to show what you could do.
Right. So.
And that album that you produced, was that with 45 King's?
Which one?
The Lord Finesse album?
No.
Did you use any
Lord
of it?
Finesse first album, Funky Technician. There were 3 producers, myself, Premier, and Showbiz. And that's the Funky Technician album.
By that time, you had graduated to what, an MPC or an SP12?
No, not yet. I was still on the S950, 900, but I was sequencing on a machine called the Alessis HR16.
Okay.
So a lot of people hear that and they go, no way. And that's why, you know, I tell people, Jeremy, it's not the equipment, it's the person on the equipment.
Right.
You know, I know people who own 1200s, MPCs, and
don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, all of their beats are under prime investigation. You know, so it's
What?
It's always the individual. The machine don't
Right.
The machine don't make the man. The man makes the machine.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you got a knowledge of how quantizing works, time signatures work, 1/8, 1/16, 1/16 triplet, 132 triplet, you can work on any sequencer. You know, so.
But it takes a musical ear to, you know, play keys and bass lines, and like, for instance, your new album, we can hear, you know, a lot of the organic production in it. Is that all self-taught, or was there someone that you looked to?
Yeah, no, all self-taught. You know, all self-taught. You know, the notes range from A to G. So you got an ear, you can figure out what notes are, you know, what key you'll be in.
Right.
For any song you produce. So
Well,
that's my one regret. I never went to school to learn how to play keyboards classically.
I wonder if sometimes knowing too much music theory can take some of the soul out of it.
Yeah, it could. But I just know if I was able to play with both hands, my production career would have went further.
Well, to see what you've done is absolutely amazing, and you just had a birthday, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
What do you think that the next 50-odd years holds for Diamond D? Well, how about this? Let's not go that far.
Right, don't go that far.
You know, what can we look for musically kind of coming up in 23 or 24? How about that?
Well, I'm working with an artist named Blake Moses. Another artist out of Harlem named Snooze. Artist out of the Bronx named Grizzly. You know, of course, I'm gonna do some things with Fat Joe on his new album, possibly. And you know, just gonna keep it moving. But you know, I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna go back to focusing on a production. But I wanted to make this album just because a lot of people were saying, "Yo, D, you know, when you rhyme on the dime piece 1 or the dime piece 2, you know, it's real short. You only you spit on like one track. You don't really, you know." So I tried to tell them, you know, the whole dime piece series was to showcase me as a producer. But anyway, just from being questioned about it and just wanting to put out something new, that made me go in the studio and do the solo joint. So I'm real proud of this right here.
Well, from the entire museum, on behalf of the entire museum, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And we will continue to honor your musical legacy.
Yes, sir, Jeremy. All right.
And we will also continue to smoke stunts, blunts,
that's right.
and hip hop.